even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, we touched a bit on the Senators yesterday, the Ottawa Senators, who are in Montreal tonight for a big matchup with the Montreal Canadiens with huge playoff implications. And we are going to discuss that and more things Senators shortly with our good friend Bruce Garrioch from Post Media in Ottawa. He's covered the Senators since the franchise started. And actually, as I just text you as we were coming on, I was just alerted to a little story that Bruce had up there that apparently part of the Putin-Trump conversation today was that the two leaders are looking to maybe organize a game between USA NHLers / KHLers and Russian NHLers / KHLers in the future. So pretty interesting news there.
I could see a summit series between USA and Russia. I could. Both guys are really into sports, talking about Trump and Putin. The first and only time I met Putin face to face was at the 2008 World Championships in Halifax in Quebec. I didn't see him I didn't meet with him in Sochi, but he was sitting behind me when I was working between the benches. But I did have the opportunity to meet him in Quebec City. It was definitely different. I will tell you that.
I did as well. My friend
definitely different. But what I'd say is that I could see something like that happening. I could see a USA Russia summit series like the Canadiens had with the Russians in '72. I could definitely see that happening.
So that will be interesting to see how that develops there. But Pierre, quickly before we get to Bruce, let's look back on the games last night. I want to start in Toronto. I felt like, unfortunately for the Flames, the Leafs were due. There's a lot of pent-up frustration with the Leafs from the way they've been playing lately, and they just unfortunately had to sit there and be the recipients of it. And some of that pent-up frustration obviously came from Austin Matthews. By no means, as we discussed earlier today off the air, does he seem to be out of the woods with whatever injury is nagging him. But it must have been a relief for him to get 2 goals and a confidence booster going forward for the Leafs.
I'm sure it is. And we talked about it a little yesterday. I don't think he's 100% healthy.
No.
But he decided to take the bull by the horns and really deliver. He deserves a lot of credit for that. I would tell you that Toronto, if they play that kind of spirited game every night, they got a chance to cause a lot of problems. I think they've kind of hit the wall a little bit, and we'll see how long that lasts. That's a big win for them, though, especially with the way they did it. The way they did it is what matters the most. It's not the fact that they won; it's how they did it.
Yep, exactly. So that's a big win for them, and we'll see if that can get them back on track. The game I was watching, Sabres-Bruins, won as expected. Just really not a fun game to watch. The Sabres win 3-2 in overtime. Bruins, by the way, today on emergency call-up, have called up Fabian Lysell and Michael Callahan, who ironically you and I were discussing earlier today, Pierre, former Providence defenseman.
Yep.
The Devils and Blue Jackets. We discussed this one yesterday, how we both agreed, Pierre, that we felt the Blue Jackets have maybe hit both a physical and emotional wall. And it just kind of looked that way again last night, even though they completely outshot the Devils. I mean, they came to play. I'm not taking anything away, but they didn't come away with the win again. And they seem to really be stumbling out of that playoff race right now.
They pushed hard. Jake Allen played really well on goal for New Jersey.
Really last couple games, Pierre.
But he was good last night. He was really good. Yeah. Columbus running out of racetrack right now. They know it too. Mm-hmm. So they're just hanging on. I think they're out of gas. It doesn't mean they can't make it because they've been so darn responsible all year, but they're not nearly as, let's say, refined as what they were at the beginning of the year. Things are harder for them right now. Mm-hmm. Teams aren't disrespecting them. They're bringing their A game whenever they play Columbus now. They know they have to show up. I don't know if they've been as good as they need to be in goal. I think that's something that is maybe a problem.
Yep.
But they still have a chance, yeah, but they can't. They're a lot like Pittsburgh They're a lot like New York. They're a lot like Montreal. They're a lot like Boston. There's no wiggle room for any of these teams anymore. They're all happy in Pittsburgh, and they should be. They've won 4 straight games. But if they lose to the Islanders tonight, those 4 games mean nothing.
Yeah.
That's the problem, because when you start to run on a racetrack, it's not just losing to somebody in your division.
Yep.
You're losing a game and you're losing points, and you can't catch up. You just, at the end of the year, you just can't.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to ask you about that, because I know you do Pittsburgh radio on Tuesdays. And, we've seen this script before with the Penguins, Pierre, as recently as last season, when they're essentially out of it. And then, but, God bless him. Sid's never going to accept that. He's never going to, throw in the towel or pull back a bit. He's Sidney Crosby, and he's going to do as much as he can to put his team on his back and keep winning as much as they can. But, in the grand scheme of things, I would imagine some fans in Pittsburgh are kind of hoping, well, we could get a lottery pick. What's the temperature like in Pittsburgh right now in terms of that winning streak?
I don't know. That I don't know. I think you're never going to tell Sidney Crosby to lay down. You're never going to tell Chris Letang to lay down. You're never going to tell Brian Rust to lay down. Tristan Jarry's playing for his career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was just in the American Hockey League. He's back now, and he's playing the way they expected Tristan Jarry to play. He's not going to roll over and give somebody his job.
Mm-hmm.
So unless they decide to tell guys they're hurt and you can't play anymore, they're going to play hard to everybody. So they made their decision at the trade deadline, what they wanted to do and how they wanted to build their team, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Speaking of Tristan Jarry, glad you brought that up, Pierre. He has been wonderful since he came back up from the AHL. Another example, Pierre, as we try to say here all the time, to warn fans or even players in a similar situation, if you get sent down to the AHL, no matter what point of career you're at, how old you are, what have you, your star power, anything, it's not a demotion. You can go down there. It's a great league, and it will help you repolish your game. And look at what he's done. And we've seen so many other players do the same thing. So I think he's just another example, Pierre, of what the AHL can do for players when they're trying to find their game.
Good point. Jimmy, here's the whole thing on that. He was an established player that signed a multi-million-dollar contract on a long-term situation. So it's not so much that he's getting sent down. It's that he cleared waivers. People didn't think he's worth the money. And that affects your character. It affects your confidence, and affects how you see yourself.
Yep.
That when you're an established player in the league and you clear waivers, you're almost at the last chance Texaco when you're driving into the desert.
Yeah.
You got to make this one count. So he went down and refined his game, and he's playing a lot better. I just said to our good friend Mark Madden, who's a legendary broadcaster in Pittsburgh, right. I said, hey, Mark, the biggest thing with Jarry, when he was in net before, he looked like he was playing sideways. You could see all 4 corners of the net.
Yeah.
He's a big guy, too. Jarry's not a small guy. He's a big guy. Now, when you see Tristan Jarry in goal, you're not seeing much of the net. So he went down there, did his chores. They refined him a little bit. Now he's back playing with a little bit of moxie and a whole lot of confidence.
Yeah, so credit to him for that, for sure. And then the other game, Pierre, well, we kind of expected a tight, low-scoring game in Minnesota with the Kings and the Wild. The Wild come out with a big game there. As I was saying to you, Pierre, I don't know another team, and I don't have the stats right in front of me. I apologize, but I'm just looking at it. Actually, I can pull them up as we speak. But they are just night and day, the LA Kings, between home and away. Like, I don't remember many teams that had this much of a difference in their game, in the way they come out onto the ice, in the presence they have out there in terms of when they're home and away.
It's fair. San Jose is one of those teams too, but they're not nearly as good, obviously, not at this point of their development. It was something I thought they would address. I know we talked about it yesterday, Jimmy, and I said to you, I don't know if LA's got enough on defense. I don't know if they're deep enough on defense. And part of that, I think, shows up with how they play on the road. Mm-hmm. When teams get the last matchup, they get the last opportunity to change lines. I think that exposes their limited depth on the back end. Right. But I still think they're going to be a tough team to play against. I wouldn't be in a rush to want to play LA in the first round. I would not.
No, I'm with you on that too. I think the first round is going to be insane in terms of some of these series we could see.
If you think about it for 1 second, let's just say this is a hypothetical.
Yep.
Let's say Florida finishes first in the Atlantic, and let's say, I don't know, New York Rangers finish 8th, and for whatever reason, Florida finishes ahead of Washington. Let's just say they do. You don't think Rangers would have a legitimate chance to beat either Washington or Florida?
I think they could beat both of them.
They could beat both of them.
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they will. But I know one thing. Last year when the Rangers played Washington, they beat them in the first round. That's what I know.
Yep.
And I know Rangers didn't play Florida to the Eastern Conference Final.
One thing I want to look back, and we're going to bring on Bruce Garrioch in a second here, Pierre, and I'm going to try and research this and come back to you with it tomorrow. But I get this feel, like I don't remember. Do you remember where the Kings were for most of the season when they were an 8th seed in 2012? Was it a similar thing to where they were expected to be better than they were, and then they finally found themselves at the end of the year and got in and got that 8th seed?
No, they changed the coach.
Okay.
Daryl came in.
That's right. Yep.
It was camp no fun. Daryl cracked the whip.
That was a big difference.
He's such a tough guy and such a good coach. And people say, oh, those methods don't work. They work. They worked in 2012. They worked in 2014. I coached against him in a Stanley Cup final. We were both assistant coaches. He was in Chicago. I was in Pittsburgh. He's a heck of a coach. And you know what? I'm proud to call him a friend. I like the Sutters a lot, as you know. Anybody that's watched this show. And Daryl's different, but Daryl's my kind of guy. I like those kind of guys.
Well, listen, another coach I know you're fond of is Travis Green, who's done a great job with the Ottawa Senators right now. So let's bring on Bruce Garrioch of Post Media. He's covered the Senators since day one, joining us here on the Eye Test. Hey, Bruce, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you guys.
Hey,
Bruce.
Bruce.
Pierre. Great to see you.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good.
So who did Daryl replace?
I'm trying to remember now. I got to go deep in the Rolodex.
I'm having
a brain cramp too. What's
that?
I'm having a brain cramp on that too.
I know. I'm sitting there going, who did he replace?
I can Google that right now.
Anyway, good to see you guys, Jimmy.
Terry Murray, boys.
Terry Murray.
There you
go.
Right
in your backyard, Shawville, Quebec. Right in your backyard.
Oh my gosh. You guys, I'm a day late for you two guys. Murphy and McGuire, I guess you had a good Monday. My God.
Yeah. These St. Patty's days are no longer for me. I was sober and in bed by 9:30 last night, Bruce. So I guess I'm getting old.
I went for 2 Guinness and dinner, and that was it.
There you go,
here
buddy.
I am.
Amateur night anyway. So anyhow, Bruce, what a turnaround since the Four Nations for the Ottawa Senators right now. Is there something that stands out to the forefront that you can pinpoint that is behind this turnaround right now?
Well, I don't think it's any secret. It's goaltending. I mean, look, I think they're playing well in front of the goalie. I think they're starting to capitalize on some of their chances, which they weren't doing during the 5-game losing streak that they came out of. And have now won, 6 in a row as they head into Montreal tonight. Linus Ullmark has taken his game to another level. He's been the elite goaltender that this organization has, Pierre, it's been looking for a long time. Matt Murray, Cam Talbot, Phil Gustafson, Joey Decord. I mean, you can go through a number of names, but for a decade, Craig Anderson tended this net, and he did a great job. And then the race to try to replace went on, and it just never could find the answer. But Ullmark has come back from injury. He was out for 6 weeks with a back injury. Guys that nobody expected he was going to miss 6 weeks when that injury first took place around Christmas time. They figured Pierre was going to be a week, but he's come back and he's been elite, and that's what this team has needed.
Bruce, what's changed around the dressing room since DJ Smith and Jack Capuano and Davis Payne were there? What's changed?
Look, I think they're terrific coaches, so I'm not going to, and you worked with them. You understand, Pierre. Those guys are terrific coaches, and they've all gone elsewhere and had success.
Yep.
I think more than anything, Pierre, it's maturity, and probably some better players around them. And a coach is telling them that you have to play at both ends of the ice. I think this started when they put Jacques on the bench last year, when he had to talking to them about having maturity in their game, and the fact that you can't just score goals. Look, there's no more dazzling player. You know it. Like, there's no more dazzling player than Tim Slitslip. He's
amazing.
the most skilled player this team has ever had since Erik Karlsson. And I would hazard to say, and maybe you guys can, I don't know what you guys think, but I think he's probably the most skilled forward they've had since Martin Havlat left. I don't know. Like, is there any,
I don't think that's a reach. I think that's a good point. I think that's more than fair.
you know, I mean,
more than fair.
I just think that the guy has incredible skills. He's got hockey smarts, and he's also playing at his own end of the ice, which is something that we hadn't seen here enough in the last 4 or 5 years.
I hear that.
Great point.
You know, and Travis. I think Travis. One thing Travis talked about, guys, is that since his first experience in Vancouver as a head coach, he's learned to be more inclusive with his coaching staff, right? Like, he's listening to Mike Yeo, Nolan Baumgartner, and Daniel Alfredson, and Ben Sexton. I can't forget Ben, because Ben's done a terrific job as well, and Justin Peters, and they got great video coaches here with Mike King, and I just think that he's more open to ideas, and he's more open to the understanding, guys, that that's what you have to do to have success.
Yep.
Good.
Bruce, when you were, you're heading into the deadline and you're kind of looking at the potential trades that the Senators might make, or what type of player they might acquire, what was going through your head? Was it a Dylan Cousins? No. Player with him? No.
No. I thought they'd go more veteran guys. I was, they had shown interest in Braden Shen a couple of years ago. There had been a lot of talk about Braden Shen in St. Louis. I thought maybe that might be an avenue that go down. I'm not sure if they did. I know the night before the deadline, they had a deal scuttled with the Nashville Predators. I think that deal, and I don't think it ever got to him, but I think that deal would have involved Ryan O'Reilly. Everyone had told me around the league, guys, these guys were looking for a veteran center. They weren't looking for a 24-year-old center. Now, Josh Norris's name had been out there for a long time. There was something about Steve Staios that he just felt that he needed to move on from Josh Norris. I think the injuries, obviously, he's gone through a very tough time in his career with injuries. You feel bad for him because he's a wonderful guy, and he's a really skilled player, and we've seen him a lot score goals from his what we call his office there in the right circle on the power play, right? And it's just, I think they felt like they needed to be a little harder to play against. When they saw the opportunity to get Dylan Cousins, they thought, and you guys know better than me, they thought with better players around him, he'd be a better player. Is that fair?
It's very fair, and it's really well said. So here's my question to you. Why was Buffalo in a rush to trade Dylan Cousins?
That's the big question.
No.
Yeah.
Did you see some of the comments on the weekend, or?
No, I'm asking.
Did you, Jimmy?
It was weird. It's baffling. I don't get it.
Wanting to change their mix in their room. I don't know.
I just find it weird. Bruce, like, you were there. I shared intel with you when I was working there. We were trying to make our team harder to play against. We were trying to make our team bigger. We were trying to become a more robust, in-your-face team. Dylan Cousins was never made available to us. Trust me on that. Because if he would have been all over, Dylan Cousins would have been there by now. Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, why was there a rush? And I still don't get it. What was the rush in Buffalo to dump Dylan Cousins?
Well, Bruce says change the mix. I don't get. Isn't that the guy you want to be leading the mix? Like like that. I don't.
And one other thing, and Bruce knows because he was around. And Jimmy, I've talked about on this show. Like, I'm as big a Josh Norris fan as you could be. Outside of his father, like, I think the world of that young man. I'll never forget that second shoulder injury. I was devastated watching that. I was devastated. And so this is not a referendum on Josh Norris. This is
No.
more of a referendum on what the freak were the Buffalo Sabres. Why were they in a rush to move this guy?
Yeah, I don't like, and it's interesting too because he's come in, and you know how good a guy Drake Batherson is. You know, he's
Huge.
come in and he's had good chemistry with Drake Batherson. They played together, I think, at the 2022 World Championships.
Yep, they
They've kept in touch since then. He's living with Batherson since he came to Ottawa. He's got 4 points in 5 games. He's +5. He's got 23 hits. I mean, this has been a good move. But I go back to the fact that I didn't think they were getting a 24. Like, I didn't think they were going for a 24-year-old center. I thought they wanted a 30-something forward with more experience. Now, the one thing I can say is the emergence of the. I think that I know they people have been disappointed in David Perron, and he had a personal issue at the start of the year that forced him to miss 25 games, and there is nothing he can do about that. And family first. But then he got injured, and since he's come back, it took him a few games to get going, but he's been like a veteran trade deadline addition.
Yeah, that's a great point.
He's lifted his game.
Yep.
Yeah, he's lifted his game at the right time of year.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. Jimmy, I just want to ask Bruce this one, and then you can take the floor.
Go for it.
Bruce, you know what I think of Pinto. Like, I think he's Patrice Bergeron light. I don't think he'll ever be as good as Patrice, but he's like that. You can't tell me that they looked at that and said, okay, we got Stützle in the 1 hole. We got Pinto locked in the 3 hole. We got to get that 2nd hole filled. Like, because if Pinto wasn't pulling his weight, they had to go somewhere to what your point is about a veteran guy.
Right.
Talk about Pinto. How's he doing?
Well, I think he's lost some of his power play time. Not much, but a little bit. So there's been an adjustment period there. I think we haven't talked about the fact that they also got Zetterlund, who I think at some point is going to have to get more ice time. But I look at Shane Pinto, Pierre, and I'm like you. I just feel like at some point he's going to push Dylan Cousins, right?
Yep.
Like, and it might be down the stretch. It may not be this month or next week, but he is going to push Dylan Cousins because I'm like you. I still think that with this guy, if he can stay healthy, the sky's the limit. Now he missed, he got hit into the boards in Tampa just before the Four Nations face-off, and he was sent for an MRI on his shoulder, and everything was structurally fine. But there's another guy who's had injury issues. One thing about Cousins, I think he's only missed touch wood 8 games in his career, so they're a little sturdier there, and I think that and Pierre, I think we'd be remiss if a guy you brought in when you were here and he's back.
Cadet.
And tell me about him.
Well, he's a pure scorer. All he does is score. He's a coachable kid that I knew would never be a cap breaker. And I always thought he'd be a great depth scorer, and I think that's what he's become for you guys.
Well, and you also need a coach who knows you, right, Pierre? Like sometimes he just
Travis had him in Vancouver.
Travis knows Matthew Highmore, and he knows
Gaudette.
Adam Gaudette. And those two guys have been Highmore's they've both done their job. Gaudette's gone through times where he had probably hasn't scored as much as he'd like, but he's had great opportunities. And just when you think, oh boy, is he ever going to score again? He does score a big goal, right? And he's in a 4th line role, but he also gets some power play time. So he's getting an opportunity. But I always think of you when I see him, Pierre, because I know how much you liked him when you picked him up on waivers.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's a hell of a waiver pickup because look at it cap wise. I mean, he's all I can tell you is this is a guy that nobody gave anything to, and he wants to PPW every day. He wants to prove people wrong every single day. Those guys are valuable guys.
Yep, I
Yeah,
hear you.
and he's been a, and I think he realizes that, right? Like he's been around and he
Yep.
understands, and sometimes you got to take a step back to take a step forward, and I believe that's what's happened with a guy like Adam Gaudette.
Great point.
You
Very
know,
good.
we don't script this, Pierre, like we always say. He already brought up 3 topics of my questions here, and I love it. We're all on the same page. It's all good. Zetterlund got that. Another one I do have, though, and I'm imagining you're really enjoying watching him lately because he's been in Fuego, is Sanderson and what he's doing. What do you love most about his game, Bruce?
Well, what I find interesting about him is here's a guy who got passed up for Team USA at the Four Nations.
Mhm.
And instead of pouting and putting his head down, he put his head down and went to work. And I heard a stat, maybe it was mentioned on the radio here, but someone said since December 3rd, I think he's the highest scoring defenseman in the National Hockey League. Like, and going to that Four Nations face-off, even as a spare, and when he got the chance to get into play after Charlie McAvoy got hurt, he has taken his game to another level. He's so smart. He's so good with the puck. He's as good offensively as he is defensively. And, he's playing with Artem Zub. And Artem Zub is not playing the kind of hockey this year that anyone expected. Like he's struggling's the wrong word. It's not because he's not struggling. It's kind of not happening for him all the time. Is
Yeah.
that
That's
and,
very fair. Very fair.
and, and I think that there have been nights where Sanderson has kind of had to pull him along a little bit, but I think he's just. We're going to talk about him as a Norris Trophy candidate down the road. I don't know if that's going to be next year or the year after, but we are because there was a night where they finished last week. I think in Philly they lost Shabbat for a bit, and I think he ended up playing. I think that Sanderson came out of that game with 33 minutes. I mean, it's just the guy's a horse, and and at times, the big thing to me about him is at times it just looks effortless. You
Mhm.
know, it looks like
Yeah.
he's such a good skater. Very very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a lot of good dinners in Grand Forks, North Dakota, watching him and Tyler Clevin. I can tell you that.
Well, Clevin, I mean, there you go. Like,
That's another one.
We tried like heck. We got Jimmy, just so you know, Bruce knows this. We got Jake out. I tried to get Tyler out the same year.
yeah.
He wanted to go back for one more year. He thought there was unfinished business still at Dakota, so he went back. But I was hoping that they'd both come out together. It's just the one thing Bruce touched on about Artem Zub. He's a character guy, and he's a very, very good guy. The players really respect him. My question is, Bruce, on the right side of their defense,
Mhm.
how are they going to fix that going forward? Do they have a
I don't-
plan? Have they talked about it? Are they looking at it? Are they aware that it's a problem?
Well, I think they've been aware of it. One of the things that they were looking for, even at the start of the season, was depth on defense.
Yeah.
Now, is that Yakimchuk? I don't know.
Not right now, but he will be.
no.
He will be,
I
but not
mean,
right now. Not right now.
no, but to me, like if they had kept him for 10 games coming out of camp, that probably in the end wouldn't have been the worst thing. Like he was a very smart player, and they ended up sending him back. Travis Hamanak's contract is up. I think that Nicholas Palo has the opportunity to earn a job here and play more of a role. It's interesting though. Nick Jensen. What's going to happen with Nick Jensen, right? I mean, he's been very good.
Yeah.
He's been very good for Thomas Chabot.
I agree. I agree.
He's helped stabilize Thomas Chabot. He's helped Thomas Chabot take his game to another level. So you're right. Like, how are they gonna fix that? I think it's something they're gonna have to look at in the offseason, either through a free agent signing or some kind of a trade, because you're right, it's an area of concern. And because with Sanderson, Clevin, and
Shabbat.
Shabbat, that left side
The
looks
left
really
side's locked.
good.
You're locked.
But Jensen's been their steadiest defenseman. Now he's out with, and guys, he's been in the training room. I don't think this guy's practiced in 2 months.
Oh,
So, or a lot of times even skated, like even been involved in a morning skate. I mean, he's been nursing something for a couple of months. And then I think, and he returned for one practice and then got hit in the foot or something and hasn't been back since. Like,
Right.
But he's a guy I think they need to, his family's in Minnesota. He's here. So I don't know how that's going to work out at the end of the season, but he to me is an interesting case.
Such a good name, Jimmy. That's why we like having guys on from the local beat. Bruce is on it all the time. I used to see him in the rink all the time. And that's a name not enough people are paying attention to, Nick Jensen, because he's had a heck of a year there. And that point that he just raised, this is, how I hate to say players' names before they get traded, because their families are involved. Like, this guy's family is in Minnesota. He's living in Ottawa alone. Like, people don't realize. I know it's not going to jail or a penal colony, but it's not as easy as everybody thinks, Jimmy.
Right.
Yeah, and he's got I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they have a newborn.
So that's
like
it's
a newborn during training camp.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's hard.
Yeah, it is tough. Before we let you go, Bruce, one of the things I got to learn just from going to Ottawa on the Bruins beat, is it's a very underrated fan base there. I don't think people understand it. And I know a lot of times when they play the Leafs or the Habs, those fans tend to take over the arena. But how excited is that fan base right now? What's the temperature like amongst the fan base?
Well, I would say the last 3 home games have been at another level.
Awesome.
You've got fans chanting, "We want playoffs." There, when Ullmark made what you call the save of the year on his
Bruins,
against the Bruins. I mean, they were chanting his name. It's been 8 years. It's time, right? And as much as they're in good shape, people here, it's kind of interesting because I had to stop at a towel store today. We're getting a bathroom redone in our condo on Lake Huron. Okay, so we got to take the tile up there this weekend. But I stopped at the towel store to talk to the guys, and they're all excited, and they're like, "I hope we play the Leafs in the first round." I said, "You know what? Why don't they just get to the first round?
Let's just get in,
and then then go from there." Because if they lose to the Habs tonight, well, then that gap of 5 points is 4, and if the Rangers win, it's 3. So just don't. Everybody wants them to catch Tampa so they can face Toronto in the first round.
Yeah.
My take is you're probably not going to catch those 3 teams. It's 6 points, and 7 to Florida. Just get in.
Yep.
Just book yourself a ticket to the dance, and like I don't think anybody would be heartbroken if the Montreal Canadiens found a way to beat out the Rangers and Ottawa and Montreal held down the 2 wild card spots, right?
I would love that.
So just get there and then worry about Leaf Nation and what have you, right?
Bruce, ever since I've known you from day one of the Senators, I was coaching Hartford. You were working the beat in Ottawa, so I've known you for 35 years. Here's what I need you to tell me, because you're a newsbreaker. What the heck's going on with LeBret and Flats? Break some news for us.
Oh, okay. So it was interesting because the NCC was upset because after the last meeting, I get this call saying, we don't think it's new news that this deal won't be done until the end of 2025. And I said, well, that's like, you did announce it in September. That's like 16 months. And I think, look, I ran into Michael Anlauer and Cyril later the other night in the hallway, and they both said it's on track. They're making progress. Is it going as fast as you want? No. But I think we're looking, I think we're not looking at the opening of that arena till 2031 at the earliest.
Jimmy, what did I tell you? I told you 2030 to 2031.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
He's been telling me all
2031.
year. Bruce, he's been
Yeah.
saying to me all year.
Oh, yeah.
And when I say that, okay, I know one thing. I'm going to be retired.
And when you retire, you're going to come.
Here's the other breaking news.
Play golf with me, and we'll have a nice bottle of red wine.
Problem. That's right.
That's right.
Sounds good. Bruce, thank you so much.
Great to
awesome.
talk to you guys. Great to see you. Jimmy,
Yeah.
great to talk to you, and great to
Yes.
see you. And Pierre,
Always a
as you know,
pleasure.
always. Okay?
Yeah. Great seeing you, big boy.
Thanks, man.
Really good.
Hey, good
Yeah,
talking to you guys. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
You too. Bruce Garrioch joining us here on the eye test.
He just broke news. He always
did.
does.
There we go.
I didn't want to say it publicly, but 2030 to 2031 is what I told Jimmy. I said they still haven't got a building permit. They got to clean the soil. It's tainted land.
And then you factor in all the economical issues we've been talking about, Pierre.
Yeah, and not only that, but you got to build in Canada, and it's cold.
Yep.
Like, some of that stuff you can't build in the winter. You just you can't do it.
Yeah, it's not
So
it's not a good situation.
it's not. It's going to be a while. And he just said something that people laugh at, but it's not funny. He'll be retired. He will be.
Yeah.
And a lot of those players will never see the inside of that rink.
Yep. It's a good point. So interesting stuff there. Some breaking news here from Bruce Garrioch on the eye test. And Pierre, as I said, has been saying that to me for a while. Quickly too, though, for people, I don't know how many of our viewers and listeners are familiar with Bruce, but he's been covering the Senators forever. I mean, he's tied in there, Pierre, as you can confirm.
I can confirm.
That is legit.
He is tied in.
Yeah.
He is tied in.
And I'll tell you something else too. And I should have said it when he's on, but I remember when I was first starting off as a reporter, which is 24 years ago now. I'm getting old too. He always took the time with me. I'll never forget. I was on the road in Ottawa, bumped into him, and he said, "Hey, I'll bring you out." Took me out for a couple drinks and just kind of gave me some advice. And he's always been like that. He's a good man. So
he's the mayor. He's the mayor of Ottawa. Don't tell the mayor I said that. But Bruce is kind of like the mayor.
He is. Good for him. So good stuff. Looking forward to that game tonight. Ottawa in Montreal at the Bell Center. The Bell Center will be rocking there. And we will probably, I'm guessing, have a few questions about that when we get to our Q&A in a bit. But before we do that, let's talk about our sponsor, TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And, of course, let's go to our other sponsor, our great gambling sponsor, Betway, where right now you can still go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan that QR code right in front of you on the screen if you're watching, or else if you're listening, go to the details section on their website to create a new account and redeem the welcome offer. It is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. It is not yet available in Ontario. You must be 18 plus and you must play responsibly. Let's go to our sick pick of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, Pierre, I'm going to start with that game in Montreal. I think it's going to be a great game. In fact, I'm feeling some overtime in this game, Pierre.
Wow.
You look at the draw at plus 310. I can't pick a winner, but I just think it's going to be that close a game. It's going to require some extra time, and you can get some great value there if you take that at plus 310. And then I'm going to go over, Pierre, to Washington.
Detroit.
Washington, Detroit. And this is one where you're probably going to say, Jimmy, do you finally have your St. Paddy's Day drinks? Because you're nuts to pick them. But I'm liking the Red Wings here. I don't know why. I like this as an upset. This game has got way more meaning for the Red Wings right now. They're in sort of I wouldn't say do or die, but they're getting close. They are plus 142 underdogs. Give me the Red Wings to pull a big upset on the road. And then one more for you. We're going to go out west, and I've got another upset for you. Utah Hockey Club is in Edmonton. Edmonton is coming in off a long, long trip. You know what happens? Well, I wouldn't say this is a full game upset, but you know what can happen sometimes. The home team is a little flat to start things off. So if you go right now and you go in your section, you click on the periods there, you can bet the Utah Hockey Club at plus 120 money line in the first period. I think they take advantage of a kind of road weary flat team in Edmonton. Who knows, though? Maybe Edmonton turns it on after that, but I do like Utah in the first period at plus 120. All right, let's go to our Q&A. What do we got? Filterless Bear. Pierre, would you say would you pay Ska to terminate Demonov's contract to get him to Montreal now?
No, I'd wait till the end of the year.
Yeah, me too. All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel. What's up, Bill? What will happen going forward with Caden Primo and the Habs? He does not appear to be in their plans yet. He is having a strong AHL season. He is at RFA. Do they trade him or keep him down?
I think they'll probably explore options in the offseason, but they want to go on a big run in Laval, get a lot of those kids that they're signing, like they signed Will Dineen yesterday out of Yale. We talked about him yesterday. So I think they're going to try to get guys signed, get them playing. What's going to happen with Jacob Fowler? Jacob Fowler's not, chopped liver. He's coming out. And whenever Boston College's season is over, Jacob Fowler is going to be there. So I think at some point they'll eventually move him on.
Yeah, I'd agree. The one thing I'd say, Pierre, and you pointed this out, but he's kind of gotten better since, is, when Dobas came up, everyone was like, wow, this kid's great. And then, the opponents kind of figured him out doing their research on video. And I wonder how set they are on him going forward.
You know what? I think they're comfortable right now.
Okay.
Because you're not going to play 50 games.
Yeah.
I think they're comfortable. What I think Canadiens fans, and I know people are upset because of Saturday night and the fact that Boston College got upset by Northeastern, you can't blame any of that on Jacob Fowler. No way, man. That was a 2-1 game, and the first shot scored by a guy that's going to be playing in the NHL, Cam Lund, is an NHL shooter, and it's a goal against any goalie. That's just a rocket ship. The second goal, there's some rebound issues, but it's still the defense doesn't really help the goalie, and then the third goal is an empty netter from 165 or 70 feet, and he's sitting on the bench. So just, this kid's really good.
And he'll rebound in the NCAAs, I'm sure. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, do you think the NHL needs to consider adding more playoff spots when they keep increasing the number of teams in the league? I am torn on the issue.
So I don't think they need to do that. Here's what I would say. I think we have a play-in game.
I would love that. I was just going to go there.
Not 2 out of 3, not 3 out of 5. Just a 1-game knockout to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we do it on both sides. So that would include 4 more teams. And think about how that would percolate going into the playoffs and get everybody's attention. Because you imagine the intensity of one of those games.
God,
so you'd have 2 in the East and you have 2 in the, or just have 1 in the East and 1 in the West. That's all you got to do.
I love it.
I think it'd be great. That would be my suggestion.
I want it even without expansion. I just love that idea. Yeah. All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel, with the trend leaning towards more aggression and hitting, does Matt Rempe have a future, or are his limitations enough to keep him as a spare part type?
Oh, he's going to play in the league for a long time.
Yep.
And the biggest thing is his skating keeps getting better as he gets stronger and older and more mature. He's only 22.
I think
he's going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
So
I think he's improved. And I've seen him at times too, Pierre. Sometimes he forgets, he gets caught up in the moment, but at times he has tried to compensate for his size versus the opponents when he's coming down on a corner. So he's trying out there to really make himself just a player, not just.
No, he's a coachable kid too. I'm watching him. You can see whomever worked with him in power skating, I'm just telling you, he paid attention. His skating has improved unbelievably.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, if you were Buffalo and you got the number 1 pick in the draft this year, what would you do? Do you consider trading it for more NHL ready?
No, I'm taking Matthew Schaefer.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next question. I see where Alex is coming from, though. Like, how many picks can you have? Bill Van Vagel, for the next Olympics, do both Nick Suzuki and Tom Wilson get a strong look for Team Canada? I'd say yes, Pierre.
Yes and yes. Totally agree.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel again. Bill, you're on a roll. Do the Habs consider this a successful season if they don't make the playoffs?
Yes.
Yes.
They wanted to play meaningful games right down to the end, and they're going to.
And they're doing that right now.
They're doing it right now.
All right. Next question. Morantz, gentlemen, in your opinion, what is a simple way to solve the goalie interference rule? It seems likely that this clarity to the rule will, regardless of discussion, continue to be an ongoing problem.
It's not that easy to fix. They've been trying for a long time. The one thing that I think has to be brought up, and I know they pay attention to it, so we're not breaking news here. If you're the attacking player and you make contact with the goalie inside the crease, that should just stop the play. Just stop the play there. And I don't know if you make it 3 times in a game, but after the second time or the third time, then you get a minor penalty. And if you really run the guy over, then it's interference. But they've got to find a way to dissuade players. And everybody, because that's how offense is manufactured in the league, everybody's going hard to the net. Jimmy, I won't tell you the players, and they probably will watch this podcast tonight. But I was at a college game on Saturday night, where 2 guys were maiming each other in front of the opposition goal. One guy was on offense, one guy was on defense, and there were no penalty calls. They could never have done that in the NHL because they both had face shields on. Somebody would have been cut. I'm just saying. So one guy's trying to protect his turf in front of his goalie. The other guy's trying to get in front of the goalie. And so that's at the college level. Every single shift. Every single shift.
Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done. All right, next question. Morantz, by the way, does anyone know if there's a chance of getting back Gooley before the end of the season and Reinbacher joining the team?
I don't know about the Gooley injury situation. I haven't heard anything about that. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
In terms of Reinbacher, I'd be shocked, Jimmy, if they brought him up unless there was an injury. Just because they're starting to really, again, go in Laval. Like, they're in first place in their division.
He's getting a rhythm down there.
Yeah, they could go for a long run, which is exactly what management wants.
Yep.
Just go for a really long run.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel again. Has any thought been given to having an experienced assistant coach from Marty St. Louis next year if they want to make a step to help guide him, maybe a Kevin Dineen or a Dave Tippett type?
I think they talked about it a lot. I think Marty's talked about it, but I think they're really happy with the growth of Stefan Robidas. I think he's done a very good job with the defense. You can see it in Lane Hudson's play. Lane Hudson's a better player now than he was at the beginning of the year. Michael Matheson as well, I think, has played really well. And Trevor Letowski, I think, has done some really good things. You know, they've got a coaching consultant, Roger Grillo, who they brought up from the University of Vermont, who was there when Marty played. And I've known Roger a long time. He's a good hockey man. No, this is his first NHL experience, and I think he's handled it pretty well. Could they use another assistant? Sure, if they wanted to. I don't think Tippett would do it. Dineen might. He lives in Glens Falls, New York, right outside Lake George, which is only about 2.5 hours from Montreal. And his son Will just signed with the farm team in Laval, so maybe they would.
All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel again. Would Cleveland ever be considered for NHL team again? A good sports town, it likes hockey, and would be a natural rival to Columbus.
And they have a great arena downtown, but I don't see that happening. Yeah, I don't see it. You know, part of the problem in Cleveland, it's not a massive market, and you've got Major League Baseball, you got NBA basketball, and you got NFL football. So their American League team, by the way, does really well at the gate. They do really well. The Lock Monsters do really, or the Monsters, they do really well. But I'd be surprised if they could do it with the NHL. I don't know, but I'd be surprised.
I remember when they had a team. What was it, the Barons, Pierre?
Cleveland Barons. They played like 35 minutes outside of Cleveland. I coached the game in that building. Oh, wow. We played the Detroit Red Wings in a neutral site game there. I've never seen faster boards in my life. Our players were mortified because if you shoot the puck wide, it was coming right back, and it might take your head off. I'm telling you, it was like rubber bands for boards. It was amazing.
All right, next question. Dave Laws, what's up, Dave? Question: what are the keys to success for the Montreal Canadiens versus Senators tonight? Good question, Dave.
Very good. Go ahead, Jimmy.
For me, I'd say you got to just focus on Mr. Brady Tkachuk. Do all you can to shut him down.
I think for Montreal, play 5-on-5. The Ottawa power play is lethal. And you know what? As great as a penalty kill for Montreal has been most of this year, I don't want them taking chances too often. I think if you take more than 3 penalties in your Montreal, chances are you're not going to win the game. The other thing, what Jimmy just talked about, is make sure you have a presence on Tkachuk. You get, obviously, last change. So I think that's important. And the third thing is I would fly my left wingers all the time because I want to stretch out that right defense of Ottawa. I really would, because that's if there's not a lot of weakness on that team, but if there's one weak part of their game, it's on the right side of their defense, and I'd be attacking those guys all the time. That's
the other thing I'll say too, and it's not as prevalent, it's not as bad as it was when he was in Boston. But the one thing I always noticed when he was in Boston and earlier this season is Ullmark does struggle at times with traffic in front. So I would try and get under his skin in front there and just really
fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
All right, next question. Posting it on 130. Could the Sens and the Habs ever be trade partners given in the same division conference? Would you need a third party to broker the deal? Discuss which is a more hated rivalry, Montreal-Toronto, Montreal-Ottawa, or Toronto-Ottawa?
Montreal-Toronto. Montreal-Toronto is probably the worst just because it's the longest.
Yeah.
Montreal-Ottawa is not as bad as Toronto-Ottawa. Toronto-Ottawa is bad, but Montreal-Toronto is the worst. And as far as the trading, I can just tell you this. They tried when I was in Ottawa to make a big deal with us. And Jimmy's sworn to secrecy. He's not allowed to say the names. And I was like, are you kidding? We're not doing that with them. Like, what the heck? No.
All I'll say, though, and by the way, in terms of the rivalry, it was funny, actually. Before we came on, I was listening to our friends over at TSN 1200 in Ottawa, and that was their question of the day, is what is the biggest, what is a more bitter rivalry, Toronto-Ottawa, Ottawa-Montreal? And it was, they actually were able to tell the demographics, Pierre, and they could tell that, the younger fans look at it more like Ottawa-Montreal because of those recent playoff series they had in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Already, the older fans look at it.
Let me just tell you this. I broadcast those games when the Leafs played, and Alfredson and Sundin were going at one another, and they're good friends. Ty Domi was involved. Curtis Joseph was involved. I mean, it was bedlam. It was mayhem.
Yeah.
And if those younger people don't know that, let's show them the tape.
Go back
on
YouTube.
Lie.
Yeah, it's all there on YouTube.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, it was
the other question with rivals trading. I mean, as we just witnessed, this rivalry thing's out the door now. I mean, look at Buffalo and Ottawa just made a deal. I mean, division rivals, not when Pierre and I were growing up or even when Pierre was working as a coach, but now it's kind of like, who cares when it comes to trading? So, all right, next question. Vincent Yoel. Hello, gentlemen. Question: as a reporter, what market do you think is the hardest to cover? I've only covered in 2 cities on a beat reporter job. There's Boston, Montreal, and both are amazing. Montreal, I think, is a little harder to cover because there's way more coverage of the team, so more competition. I don't know, but just based on people I know in the field, I would say it seems like Vancouver and Toronto would be pretty tough too.
I couldn't answer that. I wouldn't have the answer. Jimmy's got far more experience than I do when it comes to that. I apologize, Vincent.
I'm just basing on, having more competition because everything's so saturated. So, all right, next question. JD Lagrange. Kent Hughes hinted to Eric Engels being ready to overpay for what they need through trade. You're the GM, a left-handed 2C or a veteran right D? Pierre?
Left-handed 2C. You'll be fine on the right side on defense. Yeah. You get a second center that can make an impact.
All right, next question. Randy Workman. If you were the Flames, do they go with do they let
Vladar next year?
Are you saying, but Randy, are you saying do they go with him or not go with him? I would keep him.
I think he's asking, are you going to keep him on your team?
Yeah, I would. I don't know what they have coming enough to answer that question. I'll have to check that out.
Well, they got one of the best rookie goalies you've seen in the league in a long time, and Dustin
Wolf. Starter.
So he's going to play unless he gets hurt. He's going to play 50+ starts. So why not keep Vladar? I don't know.
Yeah, I like Vladar as a backup. I do, and it looks like he's starting tonight in New York. All right, next question. Peter Puck. Great. I love
I'd
that.
I'd be Peter. I think it's a great question.
Jonathan Toews an option for the Habs.
Yeah, I think Jonathan would consider anything, but I'll be shocked if he's not in Winnipeg. I'll be really surprised if he's not in Winnipeg.
All right, next question. Marvin Matthews. Hello, Jimmy and Pierre. What's up, Marvin? What is Fraser Minton's ceiling? Can he be a points producer? Yes. I
He
think
just had 3 goals the other day in the American Hockey League for Providence. I always liked it. I think Toronto really liked him too. It's not that they didn't like him, but they had an organizational need on the back end. And if you watch this podcast enough, I said to Jimmy, the most valuable asset the Boston Bruins have is Brandon Carlo.
And boom,
And
he got the best return.
You got to get that, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And so I don't fault Toronto for trading Fraser Minton. I do not fault them at all.
You're in win now mode.
But
yeah,
they got to win now. And so for Boston, that's like, pennies from heaven. It's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. And so I no, it's a good. Fraser Minton's got huge upside. He's going to be very similar to Shane Pinto. There's going to be a Dylan Cousins aspect to his game. So those are kind of where you're looking at. So that's like an elite 3 and a very good 2. That's kind of where he is. That's a very good player. That's a very good player.
All right, next question. Craig Custard. For Pierre, Gensel got a penalty for chirping the ref last night. What does it take to provoke the ref like that?
Keep doing it. He did it enough times. If you lip off enough and you say it under your breath, especially when you're skating off the ice. I've been down there for a lot of years. When they hear it and they keep a book, they're human beings. They have feelings too, believe it or not, the officials. So I want Jake on my team. If I had a team, I'd want Jake on my team. He's a passionate player. I don't find him to be one of the more disruptive verbal players in the league, but he's not afraid to have an opinion. Let's put it that way.
All right, next question. Chad Laylaw, Jimmy and Pierre, what's the ceiling for Marat Kuznetsov?
Who's Nadinov?
Yep.
He is an elite skater for sure. He's a depth player. I'm going to say he's probably better as a 3rd or 4th liner, but on a very good team, he's a 4th line player that can kill penalties and give you some energy. So that's where I see him being.
Yeah, Bruins fans are starting to like him pretty fast.
They should. He plays with energy all the time. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy, with the grind of the schedule, should the taxi squads be brought back for next season? In the regular season, I don't know how that would work cap-wise, Pierre. I'd defer.
I don't know either, but here's what I would say. The schedule, I think, because of the Olympics next year, it's a great comment by Randy, by the way. Yeah. Very good. The Olympics are coming next year, so you're going to be faced with the same kind of scheduling issues as what we had this year. And we've seen what that's done to players, especially the guys that not only play big minutes, they got to go play in the Olympics too. And this isn't in North America now. This is in Italy. So we'll see how that plays out. I've done 6 Winter Olympics and 7 Olympics total. And, it's hard. The Olympics are hard on those guys. It's really hard.
Yeah. All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, if Vancouver falls short, do they consider wholesale changes during the summer?
They need centermen. They got to really figure out what they're going to do with their centermen. I think they need a little more depth on defense. They got to get healthy, obviously. But I think if they're looking at their roster, they're probably thinking, okay, American League and NHL, we need to get some center icemen in our system. So I bet you that's one of the things they're going to do.
All right, next question. Post night on 1:30. Sean Farrell for Laval appears to have found his game. Yeah. What would his future NHL/AHL be? Is he a small skilled player?
I don't think he's got a runway with Montreal just because they've got Cole Caulfield there and they've got Jake Evans there. You know, Suzuki's not exactly a gigantic human either. So I don't see that. And Owen Beck's not a massive human. So Sean, I think, is going to have a chance to play a little bit. He started out the season really tough. He had no confidence at all. I give Pascal Vincent and his staff in Laval a lot of credit. And Sean, I watched him play with Matthew Coronado and LaFerriere at Harvard, and they were as good a line as you would see in college hockey.
You tell me about him.
Yeah, and Farrell was a big part of it. Farrell played in the Olympics, the same Olympics that Slavkovsky played in. Farrell's a good player. He's just not overly large, but I'm so happy for the kid because when this season started, it looked like it was going to be doom and gloom for him, really bad. And he's found a way, and I love his energy and his body language is good. Couldn't be happy for the kid and the family. The parents are awesome people, and the kid's a good kid.
All right, next question. Frank, hey, Jimmy. Hey, Pierre. Hey, Frank. Is this the biggest game since they made the Stanley Cup Finals? Can't wait to see you with Tony tonight with Lappy. He's talking about the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
I
thought, I'm going to tell you this. I thought that home and home with Detroit, where they swept that, I thought that was massive for them.
Yep.
Because that kind of got them on this little, we're going to make it.
Yeah.
So I thought that home and home, that was very large for them. This is obviously, you can't dwell on that because it was like 20 games ago. But now you got to take them as you play them. And so this is a huge game for them. Absolutely. It's a huge game for them.
Huge game. I can't wait to watch it. All right, next question. And by the way, Pierre, can't wait to watch you with Tony, as he said there. Energize. What would a Claude Giroux extension look like?
I would do year to year with him. That's what I would do. And it better not be about money, but I'd go year to year. If he wants more term than that, then I would say sorry. And no personal feelings, like no hard feelings. But they've got guys coming. I don't want him taking up 3 years of roster space. And you're not going to be able to move him. So no. I go to year with him. If he doesn't want to do it, say sorry.
All right, next question. Ethan Russell, what kind of deal would you give Mason Lohrei?
Got to do a comparable evaluation on that. You got to look at, guys who were fourth-round picks, what they're getting paid, guys that made the league after 2 years at a college, what they are making. So it's easy to speculate on that one, but I want to give you the right answer. So that's a comparable issue. And that requires research. Some guy could come on here and say, we're going to give him 5 years times 5. Well, how do you know that? Who'd you compare him to?
Yeah.
So a player like that who's not a first-round pick but has really made his way, when you're doing that contract, I don't know what the agents do. I can just tell you on the management side, that's a comparable contract, and that takes time to research.
Pierre nailed it right there. I get how excited Bruins fans are about him. And as Pierre said, he has really found his way and battled for ups and downs this year. I've been impressed, but he's still developing. That's
so.
All.
I won't tell you the player, but I kept getting it from the agent. My player's a unicorn. My player, and I kept saying, "Why is he a unicorn? There are 10 guys in the league that have scored more goals than him. Like, don't tell me he's a unicorn. You know what I mean? Like, calm down. We'll get a deal done, but no hyperbole, please. Let's just talk about this. We don't need the term unicorn."
I dare who that player was, but I'm not going to say. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, what a big game for Montreal tonight. What will it take for them to come away with 2 points tonight? Ethan, as we said, we went over it before, but they just gotta match it. They gotta keep it going with the intensity here. I think they can. I think they at least take it to overtime, as I said. All right, next question. XL Sparta. Would you guys say that Ottawa has a definite second line? Which line is better, Montreal's or Ottawa's second line? I'd say Ottawa's right now.
Right now, Ottawa's, but that doesn't mean anything. That could change, and I don't like numbering my lines, but if I could tell you this right now, if Nick Suzuki brings it the way he has been, and Slavkovsky plays the way he has, and, obviously Cole's been, what a magnificent season for Cole. If that line rips it up, who cares what your other guys do? You got to worry about, getting more goals than the other. And it's a race to 3, Jimmy. Whoever gets to 3 first probably wins. It's a race to 3. It's a race to 3.
All right. Next question.
I think we're all done. Oh, we got one more.
There's one more. Sound the siren. Andrei Svechnikov has seemed to regress. How do you approach him to gain traction? He seems to be gun shy and not put in positions to shoot.
I don't think he's healthy. I think it's been one of those seasons where it's been tough on him. They've moved him around the lineup too. Some nights they got him playing on the top line. Other nights they got him playing, in a checking role. So Rod's been moving him around the roster a little bit. The one thing, though, with those types of players, you bring them aside and say, who do you like playing like? Who do you try to copy? And if he says the right player, you bring him in and you make a 3-minute tape that says, here's what that player does. Here's what you're not doing. So you just show it to him on the screen. It's not hard to do. It's a good exercise, actually. More players should do that with coaches. But it's one of the things you do, and it makes the players starting to realize, okay, this is what I got to get back to.
Yep. I hear you. All right. That is it for our questions, Pierre. What a great show. Thank you to Bruce Garrioch.
Yeah. He did great. Bruce was awesome. He broke news too. LeBreton Flats. He broke news.
Suggestion by you, Pierre. Great guest as always. And thank you to everybody in the Q&A section and all our listeners, viewers, and of course, our man Shane up on the boards in Montreal. I don't know if the kid ever sleeps. He's like you, Pierre. And remember, Pierre will be on the post game with Tony Marinaro on the Sick Podcast Network later tonight. So tune in for that. And we, well, at least I will physically, but the eye test will be broadcasting live tomorrow from the Lake Placid Pub and Brewery in Lake Placid. Definitely come by if you're up there. And there it is right there. There's the flyer. Check it out. We're going to be teeing up the ECAC championships live from Lake Placid for the next 3 days. As you see there, we're at the Lake Placid Brewery, 813 Mirror Lake Drive. And then Thursday and Friday, we are at Romer's Cafe and Bar, which is right inside the Olympic Center at Lake Placid. Notice on Friday, we'll be a different time, 2 to 3 p.m., because the games start up at 4 p.m. that day. The first game will be played, but we'll be having tons of fun up there. On Thursday, you won't want to miss it because we're basically going to have a coach's corner where we are going to go back to back to back to back with all the 4 coaches involved in the ECAC championship. So we look forward to hopefully meeting some of you up there, and if not, seeing you here in our Q&A section. And Pierre, I'm going to say this, and it's nothing against you, because I would love to be with you in person on Friday, but I hope I don't see you until Saturday, because
you're very kind. And Coach Keefe at Northeastern will be saying thank you to you as well, Jimmy. Exactly. I just want to compliment Doug Christensen and his entire team at the ECAC. One of the most progressive visions of how to grow their sport on the men's and women's side is happening from Doug Christensen and his team at the ECAC. I've had a chance to work with them for almost 2 years now, Jimmy, and the growth of the league since he's taken over has been exponential, and in a good way, both on the men's and women's side. And you talk about a great place to go for a Final Four for your league. Lake Placid, New York is tasty. Awesome. It is an awesome place. Awesome.
I can't wait. It's going to be my first time there. And also a big thank you to Julia Webster as well. She's been great.
Hey, wait till you hear Julia sing the national anthem.
I can't wait.
She's phenomenal. She's an amazingly talented young lady. She really is.
Yeah. Kate Smith-esque or what?
Well, no disrespect to the late Miss Smith, but Julia's rendition is more appetizing for me than
all right. I love it. There we go.
But I say that as a Montreal Canadiens fan that didn't like anything. Except
the Flyers fans are killing us now. No. Great stuff. All right. Listen, we definitely look forward to that. And I will talk to you later, Pierre. Yep. For everyone else, enjoy the hockey tonight. And if you're watching that Sens Canadiens game, it should be a good one. We will talk to you tomorrow from Lake Placid here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.